you're going to see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like here's this man who's a revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
Oh my, get it, guys? It's hilarious because he's such a morally good man, which is so hard to find, that murdered somebody in cold blood by shooting him in the back in the streets of Manhattan because he was the CEO of a company that he didn't like and he wanted to be famous. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about Taylor Lorenz, who is over 40 at least, fawning over the Luigi Mangione guy, talking about how handsome he is and amazing he is and is so good and he's a revolutionary and all this other crazy nonsense, as she praises, again, a vicious killer who is caught on video doing it. It is still alleged at this moment in time, and she talks about how, oh, she's gained a lot of audience during her time praising this person, so it's all good, and because people agree with her, that's what makes it morally sound, and this is absolutely disgusting. So again, we're gonna break this down, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
So I'm not one of those channels who looks into what Taylor Lorenz is doing all the time like a bunch of other people. I understand that she is somebody that a lot of people on the right have a problem with, and deservedly so based on everything that I've seen from her. But to be clear, this is not the first time that she's flirted with openly praising what Luigi Mangione did. And of course, there's a very famous clip of her doing so that was on the Piers Morgan show, where she talked about how much joy she felt when this guy murdered this United Healthcare CEO.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
So again, I am not surprised in any way, shape, or form to see her doubling down on this, and to see her pandering to all the people who find Luigi so sexy that they gotta show up to his court dates and try to write letters of love and support to him, even though what he did was commit a horrific murder. Again, allegedly, because he has yet to be convicted. But I find this especially ridiculous because Taylor Lorenz's other most famous clip, in my opinion, is her going on TV and complaining about how all these people, these online harassers, they go after her, and they might even be willing to direct violence at her just because they disagree with her. And then again, she cried during that segment.
You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
And terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so sorry. It's overwhelming. It's really hard. Internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
And then you just turn it off.
Terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so sorry. It's overwhelming. It's really hard.
So yeah, you take this person right here who thinks that you guys should be censored if you disagree with her, because you might in the abstract encourage people to go after her. That might lead to potentially violence down the road for her, which, by the way, I would completely denounce if that were to occur, because obviously violence is not how we engage with our political system. But if somebody actually does commit violence, then Taylor Lorenz will go all over television, go on all these different various shows, write multiple different articles about how he's so handsome, he's so famous, he's so morally good, he's a revolutionary, she's really turned on by him, and honestly, everybody else should kind of do the same thing that she did, even though that's objectively disgusting. Now, by the way, I want to make something clear because people got angry at me for pointing out that the left was very much in celebration of this. I am fully aware that there are people on the right that celebrate this murder, and I just want you guys to understand that even though you left me comments explaining your reasoning, my position still is you're 100% wrong. You are absolutely being ridiculous. And if you think that this is somehow justified because the healthcare system has a bunch of problems in it, which it does, everybody acknowledges that, then you're also not only wrong, but you're dumb as well, because guess what? This did not lead to any changes at all whatsoever in the healthcare system. And a lot of people point out that, oh, there was an issue with anesthesia and Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they ended up walking that back. And to be clear, those anesthesia rules were due to the fact that anesthesiologists were actually overcharging the insurance companies, and deliberately so. And this was something that Medicare and Medicaid actually addressed years prior, so that insurance company was just trying to align their policy with what Medicare and Medicaid was doing. It was not this secret attempt for the insurance companies to screw you over. In that particular instance, the providers were screwing you over. And by the way, it would be inappropriate to kill the providers for screwing you over because you were angry about that. One of my main issues about this idea that the healthcare system is bad and this guy refusing to pay through his company therefore justifies his murder is because there is no limiting principle right there. Can you kill the person who's your actual insurance adjuster that actually denies you as well? Can you kill the doctor that refuses to perform whatever procedure that you need or give you the prescription drugs that you might need because they won't do it unless they're paid by the insurance company? Again, nobody wants to define these lines because what they're actually doing is basically responding in a vicious, animalistic way, a gut reaction that has no reason, no limiting principle. And again, it is the height of moral depravity. And I think Taylor Lorenz exemplifies this absolutely perfectly. And if you don't like my assessment of this situation, my clear-eyed, reasoned assessment of this situation, then that's totally fine. We can agree to disagree, or you can get angry at it, leave me a nasty comment. It's not really going to bother me because, again, there's no rational explanation for the alternative position. And by the way, Taylor Lorenz perfectly exemplifies that.
Hilarious to see these millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing a murderer when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals, as if we don't have, we don't stand murderers of all sorts.
So a couple of things right off the top that I think need to be made clear. First and foremost, I'm not a millionaire. I hope to be a millionaire someday, but I am clearly and obviously a thousandaire. But you know who is a millionaire because her parents are wealthy? Taylor Lorenz. You know who is a millionaire because his parents were wealthy? Luigi Mangione. You know who is a millionaire? Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball, Cenk's nephew. All these other different left-wing figures that are outright praising this individual are very much disproportionately millionaires. Bill Burr, multimillionaire, has made it absolutely clear that he's on the Luigi Mangione train. And again, I'm not saying that you are a millionaire if you end up supporting this murder. I'm just saying that the idea that, oh, the millionaires and billionaires are on one side and then the common people are on the other is absolutely false in every possible way. This is a very popular take. It is pandering to the worst impulses of a certain section of society. So yes, some people who don't have any ethics, who have risen to prominence in media, are going to endorse it. That's just a fact, regardless of whether or not they're a multimillionaire. In fact, you're more likely to hear their take that endorses this if they are a multimillionaire.
As if we don't lionize criminals, as if we don't have, we don't stand murderers of all sorts, and we give them Netflix shows.
Now, another thing that is a genuine red flag for me is the fact that you're having somebody who's a 40-plus-year-old woman talking like a 19-year-old, saying, oh, we stand the millionaires, we stand millionaires all the time, we give them Netflix shows, which again is also a red flag because the point of the Netflix shows typically, not all the time, some of them do get it wrong, is not to lionize the killer. It's actually to highlight the victims, highlight the terrible nature of their crime. And to be fair, a lot of current true crime documentaries are actually going out of their way to highlight the victims more so than other series have done in the past, and many of them actually pay the victims in order to use their story, or pay the victims' families in order to use their story, because we have like a different perception on how this media should go. That being said, yes, there are certain series that of course do glorify the killer that happens to be based on a real person, so to a certain extent that's true, but what she's talking about primarily with these Netflix documentaries is not the same thing. And again, you would think she would know that because we all know that women love true crime, 100% of them. And guess what? I went to CrimeCon last year, and you know what I discovered? That it's disproportionately the over 40s that are absolutely obsessed with this. So you know Taylor Lorenz is watching all these true crime documentaries, and I guess she's getting the wrong interpretation for it because she is praising the killers in her mind, or she somehow thinks that all the Luigi Mangione fangirls are just like her and how she she feels about Ted Bundy, I guess. I don't know what's wrong with this woman. Probably a lot of things. But yeah, that's not typically the point of the true crime documentaries. When we do a documentary that says, this killer bad, these are bad things that this killer did, you're not supposed to like the killer. That's not what we're supposed to do.
There's a huge disconnect between the narratives and angles that sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And you see that in moments like this.
So she also says that there's a disconnect between the mainstream media and what the general American population think and feel. And again, considering Taylor Lorenz is a radical far leftist who thinks the evil orange man is the worst person ever and is one of those people who are like, I literally can't even imagine him being president of the United States only for him to win it twice. Yeah, that she would be a good example of one of those out of touch millionaire people that she was just criticizing. But get a load of this back end justification for her support of Luigi.
And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen because people were like, oh, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel.
So right here, she's like, well, if I'm not morally correct, if I'm not in the right, then why have I seen more audience growth since praising this murderer than any other time in my career? Why is that happening? Answer me that. Are you trying to tell me that popularity in terms of audience is not a judgment of moral standards, of moral ethics? Are you trying to tell me that that's not the case? Yes, Taylor, that is exactly what I'm trying to tell you. There are ways on this channel that I could cover stories that I wasn't actually interested in that probably would rocket my channel up into success. There are a lot of people who do a lot of these like this LGBT person looks weird type of content and they cover that nonstop, and it's essentially like catnip to a certain section of the right-wing audience. But the fact is, I'm not really interested in the gays or the transes or any of that stuff all that much outside of when those stories enter my field of interest. A lot of times we do transes in sports, but we don't do this weirdo transes is on the streets being a weirdo. Look at how dumb they look, because that's not something that I'm interested in. Although again, certain people do grow really fast covering that. It wouldn't make it more ethical for me to cover that, especially when other people are covering it, versus the criminal justice cases that I'm far more interested in, and some of which don't get as much play. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's just my take on the situation. But Taylor Lorenz, the well over 40-year-old woman, has told us that, well, if she gets audience growth, if people give her money on Substack, therefore she is moral. Now, of course, we get into her fawning over Luigi in this next clip.
The women that are outside court in New York.
So you're going to see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like here's this man who's a revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
Yeah, it's not funny at all. Honestly, it's sick and depraved. And these are the very same people, make no mistake about it, who write letters to serial killers in prison. And the way that she's talking about them, the way that she's fawning, if you guys have ever been successfully flirting with a woman, you will notice all those signs. It's repulsive, and it should be repulsive to the general population, because this person is famous. He's considered a revolutionary because he shot a man that he didn't know in the back multiple times, walked up to him and double tapped him, wrote a crappy manifesto, and a bunch of people jumped on board because in some of the early photos, he looked like Jake Gyllenhaal with the hoodie and whatnot. Honestly, this is horrific. This is absolutely disgusting. And this little turd that works at CNN laughing along with her, I've seen some other segments that he's done. And by the way, not any better representation of himself in those other segments. Absolute nonsense as well. Again, these people are actively encouraging violence in order to achieve their political end. And even though I was talking earlier about how there's no limiting principle, and that is a huge problem with the people making the case that this is moral, I just want to point out that that is a feature to somebody like Taylor Lorenz, not a bug. Again, these are the very same people who end up backing regimes, communist regimes, that massacre their own people. They are operating under the belief that if you just murder enough people, eventually you'll get to utopia, and that makes them incredibly dangerous. This is the evil that enables those dictators of the past that you've heard about so much in your history courses. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah, I just realized women will literally date an assassin before they swipe right on me. That's where we're at.
Now look, I'm not against self-deprecating humor right here, but I mean, come on, guy. What are you even talking about? Are you even really interested in women? I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. I might be implying something, but I'm not saying it. But yeah, like this guy's like, oh yeah, women would rather do a murderer than somebody like me. It's like, yeah, this guy's a good job. He works at CNN. I mean, he might be like one of the weakest men I've ever seen. But let's just go with on paper. Good job, cable news. Obviously a little bit on the overweight side. We all understand that. But, you know, a little bit of fame attached to his name. And apparently the women would prefer a brutal murderer over him. And that's a laugh line rather than a horrible ding against American women, against women in the West, and especially against women like Taylor Lorenz.
I'm sure you wouldn't like to be compared to a Trump supporter, but some of how people cannot understand why people have sympathies for Mangione strikes me as the same as a lot of media not understanding why people support Trump.
I totally agree.
It's because a lot of people are just really, really desperate.
They want somebody to take on the system. They want somebody to tear down these barbaric establishment institutions.
So of course the Trump deranged crowd over here cannot go a minute without mentioning the evil orange man, and again I will point out that the support for the evil orange man is not like the support for Luigi Mangione. People are supporting the evil orange man to be president of the United States because they want him to govern within the system an appropriate way, or a better way in their minds. Luigi is killing people in the streets, or he murdered somebody in the streets, allegedly, hasn't been convicted, and you have all these different various people that again have their negative feelings about the healthcare system, which is perfectly fine to have, and again, there are ways to fix that through the political system, but then there's the people who kind of like this. They like the depravity. They like the idea that if a left-wing person has a disagreement with something, they can go and enact violence on the world. And again, I will point out, a lot of right-wing people like Luigi as well. People have been in my comments saying that repeatedly. They are just as wrong, but make no mistake about it, what is being pushed right here is the left-wing agenda as the justification for this, which honestly makes it worse if you're right-wing, because you know these kind of murders are wrong. You should know that intuitively. You shouldn't have this, oh, we should have a relativistic view of morality, but in addition to that, the murder is to forward left-wing aims. Whether that was intended by Luigi or not, that is what is being pushed by all these different various people like Taylor Lorenz. So yeah, disgusting in every possible way, but of course, I open the floor to all of you to let me know what you think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about an honestly disgusting display by Taylor Lorenz. Till next time.